before we start, don't even bring up the tabs. I know people are going to bring up the tabs. People are going to be like, whoa, you have so many tabs. Listen, I get it. I get it. I acknowledge it. Moving on. Anyways, I want to talk about the Rainbow Six artwork real quick, right? So we have currently this is the artwork that we have right here. It's pretty good looking. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna move past that. Here is the artwork for Rainbow Six Siege. Looks pretty good, right? This is the new like 2021 artwork. As you can see here, we got like Mira, Wamai, Caveira, Habana, Cali, and Sledge all repping their weapons. I think this is a very good looking artwork. Problem is that it doesn't necessarily represent Rainbow Six Siege very well. And by very well, I mean not really at all. So let's take a look at the previous artworks, and then maybe you'll get an idea of what I mean, right? So here's the old artwork, the 2015 artwork, and as you can see here, it's a bunch of people, a bunch of SWAT soldiers basically breaching through a wall with a bunch of terrorists on the other side. And I think that this wall, although a bit misleading, represents Rainbow Six Siege pretty well, because what is the main dynamic that makes Siege unique is the breaching, the self-destruction. That is what makes Siege what it is. And you can see there is some destruction here. There is some micro-level destruction. And although there's no operator that is quite like this, where you can run through a wall with your shield, we do have A, shield operators, and B, an operator that can run through a wall, that being Oryx. So, all things considered, I think it's a pretty good artwork. You can also see that there's very clearly, like, the SWAT members, or at least the special forces units, the counterterrorism units, and what are supposed to be terrorists. Eventually, we got this artwork, which is really good. And this one is a bit more representative of Siege, considering it has the actual Siege operators. With it's basically a recreation, right? We got Blitz, Ash, and Thermite with Sledge behind, and IQ with the gadgets. You can see the gadgets as well, which is very important, because you can see that Jaeger has his ADS, IQ has the Spectre, Rook looking like he's got a bunch of armor, because guess what? That's what Rook does. It doesn't look like an MP5, though, I'm be honest. That does not look like an MP5. Does he have a gun or a cardiac sensor? It's kind of hard to tell. Whatever. Anyways, I think this is probably one of the best artworks right here. And then we got some other artworks which are okay. We have this, which is Sledge and Finka. This is like, I think the 2021, is it 2020 or 2021? I can't remember. This is like the new case. Like if you buy the Ultimate Edition, this is what it looks like. Or we have the, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but we have Habana, Legion. I don't know why Legion's here. These are all attackers, but whatever. You can see the Goo Mines, the X-Kairos, the Sledgehammer, the Finka Stem. This is pretty good. I don't know. I have mixed opinions about it. I think it's really good, but it doesn't represent Siege very well. I don't think that this is what should be trying to represent Siege, because you look at it, anybody who doesn't play Siege or has never played Siege is not going to be able to look at this and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what this game is about. So people looking at this, they could look at this and be like, oh, it's a game with people with guns breaking through walls. And that's basically what Siege is. You look at this and you're like, what is this? Is people like in the training grounds? Like, this is not an area that we've ever seen. We're not familiar with this area. Although it does give the idea of it basically being like simulations, or not necessarily simulations, but like it's all about training, right? Like Rainbow Six Siege, where you have the attackers versus defenders, some people perceive those games as the attackers and defenders, these counterterrorism units, they're training or practicing to be actual, to fight and take down actual terrorists. But they train against each other because they're professionals and whatnot. And obviously, that's a very common thing in real life, and that makes a lot of sense. Where's the, there's also this one right here. This one, again, pretty good. Whoops. It's pretty good, honestly. It looks good. It feels the common theme with all of these is that you have Sledge. It's interesting because a lot of people think in their mind that Ash is like the poster child for Rainbow Six Siege, where people are like, when they think of Siege, some people, their first operator, they immediately go to Ash. But Sledge, in reality, is the front and center of Rainbow Six Siege. Sledge represents Siege at its core because you look at a sledgehammer and you're like, that is, you break things with a sledgehammer, and Siege is all about breaking things. So if you're going to represent Rainbow Six Siege with any character, this is the most common artwork I see. This is the artwork I see when I load up Siege on PC. And it's basically just looking into like a lightish area or like a bright area, and you see a guy. I mean, obviously we know it's Sledge, right? But for people who don't play Siege, they see a guy with a hammer. Um, that being said, it is slightly misleading, right? Like these artworks here with that involve just Sledge breaking through a wall, although good, might be slightly misleading because people who you would need to understand the context of this being a Rainbow Six game. Like, I think that this kind of artwork works very well for people who know what Rainbow Six is. They know what Tom Clancy is. They know what Rainbow Six is, but they haven't played Siege. Because this is what differentiates Siege from any other Rainbow Six game. All of the other Rainbow Six games, they're all tactical shooters and whatnot, right? But you look at this artwork and you're like, so what is Siege? What is distinct about Siege in the Rainbow Six series? Guy with a hammer? Oh, there's destruction. There's soft destruction. You see debris everywhere. This is the artwork for people who know Rainbow Six but don't know Siege. I'm not saying it's the best artwork, or the one I would use to represent Siege, but that being said, it is an artwork that does its job for a large percentage of the Rainbow Six fans. I think this one is for Rainbow Six fans. This one is like marketing. I guess that's the big thing, right? Like, do you want your game to be about representing the game, or do you want it to be about representing like there's a balance between having marketability versus broad appeal. I think that this first cover actually does a pretty good job because it represents what the game is about. You see people running through a wall, and you're like, okay, this is Siege. I understand that. This artwork right here, although really good, this one is more for the Siege fans. This artwork is for the Siege fans who know what Siege is, and they have an artwork that represents what Siege is to them. To Siege players, this represents Siege fairly well. You have all the different operators with the different guns. You have Hibana with the X-Kairos and whatnot. This is a good artwork for the Siege players. This artwork doesn't really mean anything. You just see a guy with a hammer and a guy and some person with a stim gun. And for people who don't know anything about Rainbow Six or Siege specifically, either one, what is going to be their big takeaway? They don't really get any information based off of this. Again, it looks good, obviously. I'm not dissing, whether or not it looks bad. It undeniably looks good. I just don't think it represents Siege well at all. And last but not least, we have, the artwork that is basically this, right? Oh, no, sorry. It was this one. And I don't know if this is, official artwork that was ever used to market the game. I'm not sure. But it's also artwork that I see fairly often, where you see, Sledge in the back with his hammer, Mira doing the iconic things with her fingers, Jaeger in the front, Dokkaebi with what looks to be her pad. I think this is good for... I think this is a good artwork for Siege. I don't know what this is good for. It's good, but what is it good for? I don't know. Here's another picture that doesn't have Jaeger. I don't know. I have mixed opinions about this. I think all of these artworks are really good, by the way. I know I've mentioned that before, but I just want to show the technical praise with the lighting, the presentation, everything is really good. It's all about if it represents Siege well, and I think this one doesn't do the best job, but it is all right. I think it's all right. I would say that this one is again for the Rainbow Six fans that don't know what Siege is about. But of course, this one's like old artwork, right? So if I were to come up with, what is this? I've never seen this before. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is like Halo? I don't know. Yeah, that looks like the M90. This is really cool. Sorry, I just wanted to look at that real quick. Um, so if I were to come up with artwork in my mind, I would say that I would want something closer to the original, or actually something closer to this. Um, Maybe not having it as a horizontal, like left to right. I think that theoretically, what would make more sense is having the artwork be top to bottom, like being vertical. Like you have people. Let's like just pretend right here. I don't have anything on the screen, but just pretend with me. Let's say that we have basically this kind of thing, but it's sideways, so it's vertical. There's people on top of the defenders, like the attackers are going to be above the defenders, and excuse me, let's say that we have a ADS on the ground, and like I'm just spitballing ideas, right? Let's say that we have Fuse detonating his device, and you can see the cluster charge shoot a grenade through the floor, and the ADS is destroying the grenade. We could also have Sludge, which again, Sludge should be very important because I think Sludge is the most important character for the identity of Siege because it represents destruction to people who don't know anything about the game. Because everybody can look at a sledgehammer and be like, oh, he's destroying stuff. And that is a big part of Siege. And that helps people who don't know anything else about the game to be like, sledgehammer, destroying stuff, that's Siege, got it. Um, Anyways, yeah, so let's say we have like Sledge destroying something else. We can have IQ potentially like looking at the ground, maybe shooting a gadget, who knows? Um, and then we'll have the defenders behind cover, like a deployable shield, or maybe like we'll have some defenders shooting up and above and pulse with a cardiac sensor looking up and above. Because I think verticality is also a very unique part of Siege. Like horizontal gameplay, like people fighting each other on the same floor and stuff like that, that's a big part of Siege. I would argue that is a bigger part of Siege than verticality. But verticality is what makes Siege unique. Not very often in shooting games, not very often in first person shooters do you have people shooting from one floor to the other directly underneath each other. In fact, that's fairly rare. So, that being a unique aspect of Siege, being able to have the top versus bottom kind of system thing, people on the top breaking the floor open underneath them, maybe like have an explosion, or maybe like a C4 getting thrown or something like that, that would actually be better for representing Siege than this kind of like, breaching through the wall. Also, on top of that, I would like to say that because of the way that they design box art, where it's like vertical, like it's taller it's more tall than it is wide. Um, it also looks better, like it looks cleaner because you can have I don't know. To me, it just makes more sense because you can show more of what's happening, right? Like you have very little space on the left and very little space on the right because that's just the design of the box art because that's the way the game cartridges are shaped. I think that if you do it vertical, let's say theoretically it was split like right here, then you can have all the operators and stuff at the top here and all the stuff in the bottom here, and you can show a lot more than you would be able to with a horizontal design. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to give my opinions on Rainbow Six Siege artwork because I don't really think anybody else has. Nobody cares. Realistically, it doesn't matter. But I think that the way that Rainbow Six Siege has been marketed could be marketed in a way that is a better representation to the game. Because as cool as this artwork is with Sledge with the sledgehammer, and although it's somewhat accurate, right? You can see destruction, you can see debris, you can see particles. Sledge has a hammer. It's not misleading. It's not like, clickbait or anything. That's literally just kind of how the game is. I think that you could theoretically do a better job of making and showing what makes Siege special and unique in comparison to any other shooter out there. All right, that was my little rant. Take care. Let me know what you think.